So now let's get to Hitler. So remember, Hitler didn't invent anti-Semitism, and Hitler didn't invent fascism, um, but Hitler did coin or um, made famous Nazism. So Hitler was in Vienna, and he was an aspiring artist, and he was exposed to extreme Austro-German nationalists. And these people were Slavophobes, so they were against or scared of, phobic of people who were of Slavic origins. So that's like Russians, people from Serbia, etc., and anti Semites. And these are people who believed in social Darwinism, German racial superiority, and they believed in the inevitability of racial conflict. And they believed in the international conspiracy of Jewish finance, capitalism, and Marxist socialism. So Hitler was excited for World War I, as lots of people were. And then when Germany was defeated, he believed, as many did, that Jews and Marxists had stabbed Germany in the back. So Hitler didn't invent Nazism, but he did join a small workers group, and then he rebranded it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, and um, and he launched the failed armed uprising in Munich, which I had talked about earlier. So Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, which is my struggle, when he was in prison, and he insisted that Germans were a master race, and that needed to defend against racial degenerates, and that they needed Lebensraum in the east, which is like more land, and that massive war and conquest, the Germans would replace the subhumans in Eastern Europe. So he said that a Führer would come and lead Germany to victory. So he outlined basically his plans for World War II. Sorry about the light, by the way. So the Great Depression allowed the Nazis to form a splinter party, and they ended up in Germany as the largest party in 1932. And its rise was facilitated by the mistakes of Chancellor Heinrich Brüning, whose conservative policies cut government spending, led to deflation. That's when money starts to lose its worth, and wage controls intensified Germany's economic collapse and deepened the belief that the Republican leaders were a failure. So this was the Weimar Republic. So Hitler was legally appointed chancellor by President Hindenburg. His rise to power was facilitated by a deep rift within the German left, as the communists attacked the socialists as social fascists. So again, you had a situation where it was either the communists were probably going to take power, or the fascists, and the fascists were the ones to win. So what happens is, soon after Hitler takes power, there's a fire at the Reichstag, which is the parliament. And Hitler persuaded the president to grant him dictatorial emergency powers and abolish most civil liberties. So, and then also to give him the Enabling Act. So these are things that are important to know, which give him absolute powers for 4 years. He abolished all political parties and installed Nazis in top government and bureaucratic positions. So remember, Hitler comes to power democratically, and then he gets rid of all of all of the democratic portions of government. And so everything, any kind of independent organization is gotten rid of. The only thing that is still independent is the church. So on June 30th, 1934, Hitler eliminated the leadership of the Nazi stormtroopers. And then you have the racial state, where he persecuted undesirables, Jews, Slavics, Gypsies, who are Roma. He called them Gypsies, though, homosexuals, asocials, handicapped, Jehovah's Witnesses. In 1935, he passed the Nuremberg Laws, and basically any Jewish, classified any Jewish person was someone who had with 3 or more Jewish grandparents or 2 Jewish parents. And you couldn't have, this isn't right. It's 1 Jewish grandparent is considered someone Jewish. And then on November 9th, 1938, you had Kristallnacht, which was a night of violence against Jews and businesses. And Jews were forced to pay for the damages. And this is after Kristallnacht, you had 300,000 of Germany's 500,000 Jews had immigrated. And remember that most of the Jews killed in the Holocaust were not from Germany. So why was there popular support for Nazism? So there was an economic recovery because of public works. Basically, he did public housing and also arms spending. By 1938, unemployment had fallen to 2%. Also, Jews were forced to sell their businesses at rock bottom prices. Also, mass organizations brought Germans of all classes together for charity drives, youth events, rallies, exercise classes. Also, there was gender. They wanted to have women return to traditional values, and they encouraged domesticity. But then once men entered the military, once they went to war, women had to return to the workforce. So there were some people who were against Hitler, but things didn't work out for them. Okay. This is the last one. I know this is long. I can explain how and why various political ideologies and factors resulted in the catastrophe of World War II. So, French and British fears of another war, American isolationism, and deep distrust between Western democratic capitalist nations and the authoritarian communist Soviet Union allowed fascist states to rearm and expand their territory. In the interwar period, fascism, extreme nationalism, racist ideologies, and the failure of appeasement resulted in the catastrophe of World War II, presenting a grave challenge to European civilization. It's really interesting to think of World War II as almost the end of European civilization. Okay, so let's talk about almost the end. So this is leading up to World War II. Germany withdrew from the League of Nations in 1933. They began rearmament in 1935. They established a military draft and they reoccupied the demilitarized Rhineland in 1936, which violated the Treaty of Versailles and Anschluss, which was they joined with Austria in 1938. If you've ever seen The Sound of Music, that's what it's about. Appeasement. So appeasement was, this is another word that before 1938 was not a bad word. Now it has a totally different meaning, connotation. To avoid war, the British and the French gave Hitler virtually everything he wanted. British appeasement was motivated by pacifism and the memories of wartime horror. And the British basically dictated the French policies. So at the Munich conference, Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain flew to Germany and allowed for territories housing ethnic Germans in the Sudetenland to be ceded to Nazi Germany. So basically, Chamberlain said, okay, you can have any part of Czechoslovakia that has German speaking people, but then you have to stop. You can't take any more. So Hitler said, okay, but then he took the rest of Czechoslovakia, and then Chamberlain and the French prime minister were like, oh no. And then Hitler said, now I want Poland. And they said, no way. And then there was a secret pact between Hitler and Stalin. Remember that fascists and communists hate each other? Well, they had a secret pact, and their secret pact was a non-aggression pact, meaning they would not fight each other. And they agreed to divide Poland and East Central Europe into German and Soviet zones. And I'll show you that here. And let's see. What doesn't say. Okay, so and this is a picture of them. So this is Hitler and Stalin, and here's Poland with their feet on them. So there's a saying like, war makes strange bedfellows. So that's Stalin. So here is our last picture, our last map. So here's Germany in 1933. Here is what was remilitarized in 1936. See this is the Rhineland. Here is conquered in Satellite States, March 1939, but they took this over. This is the Sudetenland. And then this is annexed in 1938. So this is all of Germany, basically. Here, by this time. Here, they already had this. And then September 1st, 1939. Here. And then the Soviet Union took over this area. So, and September 1st, 1939 is the beginning of World War II. Thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it, and just want you to do well on the test. Bye.